Hello, welcome back. I'm just gonna talk about, some of the stuff I've been watching lately, as I do. Let's talk about a little bit about True Detective, which I did mention last time. I did finish it. I saw the last couple of episodes, um, and it didn't quite land for me. I do like the visual style of the season. The performances were great. Jodie Foster, of course, and the newcomer, Callie Reese. She did really well. A lot of the characters, some of the side characters, really, like the daughter, like Jodie Foster's character's daughter. Like it felt like her little arc got condensed, as well as like the young the young cop, the young father, Peter. His arc was also felt rushed with his wife. Didn't put up much of a fight at the end. I feel like we didn't even get to see her and or the kid that much at the end. See her reaction to the whole situation, the resolution with his father felt kind of like abrupt. The incident that happened at the house, like it felt a little bit convenient and contrived for the plot. I think I'm generally more harsh towards cop shows and detective shows. I want them to be a little more radical if you're gonna focus on detectives and the corruption in the system and the police system and the government, and all that. The show did shine some light on the native culture in the area in Alaska, but I feel like it mostly felt like a backdrop. And I think the reveal at the end, the who done it reveal would have landed better if we had gotten to know the community better. And the ending like was ambiguous on purpose, of course. Maybe it was a little bit too ambiguous at the fault to a fault. With especially with Callie Reese's character, it seemed like she left and didn't want to be a detective anymore, and maybe like there wasn't enough conflict there. I figured, she would have a little bit more, be more conflicted with her role as a detective, as a cop. Basically, it was up to the Jodie Foster and Callie's character to decide for themselves. Like, okay, so they're the good guys, they're the good cops, so they're not gonna press charges. They're not gonna take down the villains of the show, who turned out to be actually part of the community, and they were like enacting revenge for the murder of one of their own. And then also, like, I feel like the theme of the mental illness and versus supernatural, I think that was a bit undercooked. But yeah, it just felt, I don't know, it just felt like more shallow than it could have been. And I think maybe you could put the fault on HBO for not being having the courage enough to actually be a little bit more radical in its politics, and trying to conserve the brand of True Detective. As for something a little bit more lighthearted, somewhat, I checked out Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I did mention that I wanted to see this last time, and I did watch a few episodes, about 5 or 6 episodes. Um, but yeah, this is a pretty fun, cool, chill anime. It reminds me of Mushishi, chill vibes of like adventures, just trying to solve different people's problems in different villages, with like fun like magic solutions and stuff. I think Free Ren's an interesting character. She's like an immortal elf type, who has to like. It takes her a while to kind of like understand that her friends and the people around her are aging much faster than she is. Basically, it's like part of her journey is is understanding humanity's short time on this earth, and like appreciating her friends and appreciating the time she has with these friends she's had. And it's an interesting way of telling the story too, because it takes place after the big adventure you would usually see in one of these adventure stories, where like a D&D type of story of like these adventurers going out and saving the world. And so it starts after they've already saved the world. Frieren taking an apprentice, going back and revisiting her journey, her like decade-long journey she had with her previous party, who have now are like aged, mellow, chill vibes, fun little a cute elf character here, a female elf character who we don't really see take the lead that much in these types of stories. It's nice to see. I love magic stuff. Yeah, I would recommend it. Especially if you like fantasy stories with a more down tempo vibe. That's not, there is some action, there's some scenes in there, but it's mostly just like conversations between people and like her reminiscing about her past and trying to understand and connect with humans. But back to movies. I watched All of Us Strangers. Very emotional movie. Basically about this writer who feels lonely, and he's all lonely and trying to find connection, trying to like reconnect with his past, his parents. And then he meets another guy in the same building, who's also a bit lost and lonely, and they try to connect. Just, has Andrew Scott's pretty good in it, and then Paul Mescal is the love interest. But what I wrote here for my review is best watched while in a malaise, all by yourself, and need to be held in the dark. You probably will get teary-eyed. I liked how it plays with time and memory and daydreaming and all of that. The ending might be a little bit upsetting for some people, but just be prepared to feel a little bit down, but also feel a little bit inspired at the same time, and have a emotional catharsis with this movie. And I guess we'll continue with the sad zone. In this case, the zone of interest. A movie that I believe won some awards in the festival circuit. A film by Jonathan Glazer, the director who did Under the Skin. That's a really great movie. One of my favorites, actually. But this one, it's about basically a Nazi family during World War II who lives right next to an Auschwitz concentration camp. And so they're just going by their daily life while we hear screams and stuff in the background of horrible torture and genocide going on the other side of the wall. That's certainly enough to turn off a lot of people. Do not recommend this for everybody. Perhaps if you're interested in a fly on the wall look at this time period, at what it was like for these Nazis families to live during this time, you can connect this to even modern times, how banal and mundane evil people can be, and live without caring in a society that doesn't challenge them, whether it's Nazi Germany, whether it's in the U.S., whether it's in Israel, with genocide going on in Palestine right now. Of course, he doesn't really connect that to any other conflict. I think the movie, does a good job. There is a moment where there's a flash forward, so it does connect it to modern times, but within the context of Germany, of Nazi Germany. And I think it's perhaps more a mood piece for history buffs. But what I said basically is you can imagine the unsettling feeling you'll get from this film by reading a brief description of its premise. The slice of life of evil, not entirely without purpose, but of interest mostly to the World War II history buffs who are looking for a more distant and measured peek at horror. There were some experimental scenes, like some infrared shots, which are interesting to look at, but I don't know if I've got the appetite really to watch a Nazi family just live their happy life for too long. Luckily, it is only an hour and 45 minutes, so it's not a super long movie. And then I watched Mean Girls, the new one. This one's actually, surprise, surprise, a musical version. remake pretty much of the original Mean Girls that came out 20 years ago. Damn, I was still in high school back then. I remember watching in high school. This new one doesn't serve much of a purpose besides kind of updating it for modern audiences, in the sense that it includes things like, how teenagers use social media these days. And then it does include a more diverse cast. I think that's, generally a good thing. In regards to the quote unquote Mean Girls in the movie, I think the cast from the original is much better than this new one. I think Renee Rapp here does a good job as Regina George. It's a slightly different take. It feels a little bit more realistic and not as campy as Mitch McAdams' version. But then the other girls like Gretchen and the dumb girl, I guess, that was played by Amanda Seyfried in the original. I think they did a better job in the original. The new Katie character, I think, does a good work as well. And then, the friends are okay. And it just felt like this movie was kind of just mostly a rehash. Like, a lot of the same jokes were repeated. Some were slightly updated. Some things were, taken out. They definitely made it more clear that Katie's friend was actually a lesbian, and it wasn't just like a joke in the first movie, And the musical elements were okay, but I don't know. I don't think they were that spectacular. I would have preferred if they actually just did like an actual sequel. And the little cameo that shows up later in the movie would actually have landed better if it was the case. So it feels like just like a little bit of nostalgia bait, cash grab, and a bit, which I don't know how successful it was. As I don't think it did super well at the box office. The era of Mean Girls is over. It served its purpose in 2004. I don't really think we need a new version of it. Let's get a whole new teen comedy, centered around girls. Like, let's do that. I think a movie like Bottoms actually does a good job of that, perhaps. So maybe, Bottoms kind of got lost in that, in the shuffle of things, and we don't quite have a type of Mean Girls or Clueless for this era. But yeah, I gave it 2.5 because, whatever. It wasn't like the worst thing I ever seen. Oh yeah, so another thing I watched, the last thing I watched was the Avatar: The Last Airbender show on Netflix, the live action adaptation, I guess, from the cartoon. I did like the original cartoon. I thought it's a great kids show. With a lot of like, more serious themes that I think a lot of adults can latch onto. Some funny stuff, some great characters in it. Either way, this new remake is pretty pitiful. It is real bad. It just feels like basic TV adaptation with the budget of a Netflix show. So it looks all fancy and nice with the effects and the colors and the production values, but the direction and the writing were just really low tier. I couldn't even really watch too long of it. I saw like a bit of the first episode, and then I fast forward through it. I went to the very end just to see what was going on. It's something that's I've been doing with like a lot of Netflix shows, and streaming makes it easy to do this. Is basically scrubbing through the video and like looking at the little thumbnail preview as you like scroll through, to like stop and maybe like I see something interesting and I stop there and I watch it. Especially like shitty shows like this that just can't hold my attention, and I'm kind of hoping, maybe this character will be fun, and sometimes some characters are worth watching, but yeah, I don't recommend it. I barely watched it, so maybe I shouldn't be speaking too much about it, but it's not a fault on the kid actors. I think they'll probably grow into their roles a little better. It's funny because I think the creator said it's like, he wanted to make something that like the adults who grew up with the original show would like to watch, but I think it failed. Yeah, I don't think it's getting good. Yeah, I don't think it's getting good reviews either. Anyways, yeah, that's what I've been watching lately. There's some stuff coming out soon. I might go watch the new Dune movie. I'm gonna rewatch the first one, part one, most likely beforehand. So maybe I'll talk about that next time. There's also that new historical Japanese show Shogun on FX that's going to premiere soon. It's getting a lot of buzz. I don't know if it's going to be my thing. I don't know. It's kind of like a Game of Thrones, but historical Japanese drama, I guess. I don't know, like medieval Japanese. You know, I think the introduction of like Western culture into Japan during that period. There's like a white dude who's a central character. I guess being trying to assimilate into Japanese culture. I don't know. Hopefully, it's better than that Tom Cruise movie. We'll see. I don't know. I'll probably check out at least the first episode and maybe provide some thoughts. Maybe I like it. I don't know. Anyways, I guess I'll see you next time. Bye bye.